Welcome back, everybody. I want to switch gears and talk about another civil trial that's making the news this week. As you might know, Bill Cosby was on trial for an accusation of sexual abuse that took place back in 1975. Judy Huth alleges that she was forced into sex acts at the age of 16 at the Playboy Mansion. Now, in the very latest, jury deliberations had to be restarted even after 8 of the 9 questions were decided on. And this is because Judge Craig Carlin had to shut down the courtroom at a mandatory time of 4:30 p.m. on Friday and had already promised to excuse a juror after Friday's deliberations. So the remaining question that the jury had to consider was whether or not punitive damages were warranted. And so deliberations had to be restarted again with an alternate juror filling in on Monday. Now, I will start with you, Dr. Pearson. I've never seen anything quite like this. Have you?
No, and this case is a mess. Not only do we have that, but we have, it started with a note from the jury saying that there were 2 jurors that had a personality issue.
Yep.
Then there was a juror that was photographed standing near, I believe, the alleged victim.
An alternative accuser, an accuser in a different lawsuit against Bill Cosby.
Okay. So there was something like that happened, and there was a colloquy with the judge about whether that was impacting the case, or whether what the real facts of that were surrounding that. This entire thing, if it comes back with a finding of liability, is going to get flipped. I just can't imagine that the Supreme Court would see it any other way.
Well, let's just take a step back here, Gene. If they've answered all the questions and they didn't answer the question about punitive damages, if you're Bill Cosby's camp, are you concerned that the jury found him liable?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Things aren't looking good for Mr. Cosby. And, it's another case in Los Angeles that is a total mess.
Yeah, just following up on this. So are you surprised, Gene, that he would be found liable? You're talking about something from 1975. Those cases are traditionally tough to kind of prove here. But what do you think it would be about this, based on what you know on the evidence presented, how the jury came back with their decision?
I hate to say it. I think Bill Cosby's reputation, even though they had probably a fulsome voir dire, I think the jurors couldn't get away from their subconscious knowledge of Bill Cosby having all these accusers, regardless of what they said during voir dire. Second thing is, I'm sure the victim and the evidence presented was very compelling in the jury's mind, and that's why he lost. That's why it appears he may be facing defeat.
Well, it's so interesting because his criminal conviction was overturned. He's now facing lawsuits like this. If he is found liable, Dr. Pearson, you said he has a right, he probably has successful grounds for an appeal, but how could this case affect other lawsuits that he is already facing or could face?
Well, you could introduce it as a certified exhibit, a jury determination. So it's acts in conformity therewith. I think that he's literally just facing this for the rest of his life. I mean, if you could engage in a bankruptcy filing for all future claims, I would do it. But he can't. I don't think he can. But I just think that this is just going to plague him for the rest of his life.
And by the way, just focusing on the jurors for a second here, Gene, is the judge not permitted to take the 8 questions that they already decided on with the jury that they had and say, okay, we're going to put those into the record. This final question will get an alternate in. That's not permitted, right? You need a full jury on all of the questions because, yeah, I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I think, what if you had a criminal charge and you had 10 counts and they come back and they say, we got a verdict on 9 of the 10, and then one of the jurors gets sick or is removed for some reason. You got to start all over because
right.
you need a unified verdict. You can't have piecemeal. 10 jurors here, then you have the 11th juror decide that last count. You can't do that. It has to be unified.
Now,
this is the second time we've seen this, though. We saw this with Depp, where they didn't fill out the form properly. And I think that courts around the country need to start looking at these forms before they bring everybody back in.
But you're assuming that's what the reason is, Dr. Pearson. It might not be that. It might be that they just couldn't, decide on it, or they didn't know about it. I mean, it could be that. It could very well be that. Could be another reason. The question is, when you add an alternate now into the mix who wasn't a part with the other jurors, how's that going to complicate things? Dr. Pearson.
Got to start all over again. They've got to start all over again with deliberating the claims and deciding the outcome. And it very well could be that they're going to have more personality issues, and they're going to come to different outcomes.
And I will tell you real quick that, Gene, as you mentioned, this is actually not like a criminal case, because this is not requiring a unanimous jury. You just need 9 of the jurors, 9 of the 12, I believe. So it's a little bit different, but it's going to be interesting to follow nonetheless what ultimately happens. Gene Rossi, Dr. Pearson, excellent analysis as always. Thank you so much. Linda Kenny-Bodden is up next. Stay with us.